Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I mean, a great show. We got two very important videos to play for you today. But, you know, before we get started, who's number one? Again, let me hear it. Who's number one? You all are number one. Anyway, let's go ahead and welcome all our peeps. Welcome in the house today. The first person in today was Patrick. Meow from Houston, Texas. Second person in the chat today, ABQ, El Señor Michael Rudnin de Brooklyn, New York. Third person in the chat was Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. So we got New York, Georgia, and Houston, the three different states, Texas, Georgia, and New York. Then bringing it up, we got Joanne from Los Angeles, California. Bruce Pollard from where again? From Kingwood, Texas. But guess what? I think he's today representing Minnesota. So we have somebody in Minnesota. Lee Grant is in Montgomery County, Texas. We got Paul Fleming in Powder Springs, New York. We've got Yvette Avery Herrera de La Preciosa in Atlanta, Georgia. Eric Hayes in Kinguan Atascocita. Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. J. Ray 713 from Houston, Texas. Hey, man, we are represented and more to come as they register. J. Ray says, I am roaring with his roar. Bridge MCP says, Greenland tourism firm cancels Usha Vance visit fearing media spectacle, which is what they wanted to do. All right, let's get started. Let's see if I have any words to read from anybody. Bruce Pollard says, I wonder what will be the rant today. You're going to like it, Bruce. Senor Bruski lo vas a gustar. All right, let's see what else. Paul Fleming says, Putin, it would be a great mistake to believe that Trump plans to annex Greenland are just extravagant conversations. I think this guy has nothing to lose. I think he's going to go all out. The Supreme Court has already said that whatever he does in office, whether it's wrong or right, he cannot be held accountable for it. So they gave him carta blanca. Carte blanche is what Donald Trump has. So if he wants to invade countries, he can do it. Here's the thing. But remember, if he invades a country, he can give the order to invade. But if he doesn't have the money to do it, he can't. So he can start the invasion and say, well, Congress, you better give me the money or the troops will die. And Congress would say, well, let them come home. That's how you cut his purse strings. Anyway, what else have we got here from, let's see. Michael says, the Russian translation says, Putin, it's a grave mistake to think that this is some extravagant talk from the new American administration. It's nothing of that sort. Well, I don't think America will tolerate an invasion of Canada or Greenland. I don't think so. They may tolerate an invasion of Panama because, we are kind of brown in Panama. But I don't think they'll tolerate an invasion in either Greenland or Canada. We know they'll tolerate an invasion in Panama because Bush 2 killed 10,000 Panamanians and nobody here gives a damn. So, I think it'll be the same. Bridge MCP says Greenland tourism firm cancels Usha Vance visit, fearing a media spectacle. Of course. Melanie Keelan says, I cannot tell you how much I enjoy your contributions. Patrick is a godsend. He always has, and he keeps me on my toes. If I screw up, Patrick is always there to say, Egberto, you screwed up that one. But you know who else does that? Bridge MCP. And she'll, if I do something, she'll text me, tack, 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 right after the show. Tack, 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 tack. What the hell is wrong with you, Egberto? You didn't do this. What's wrong with you? I love you, Bridge. I love you, Patrick. And of course, Melanie Keelan, our Ask Egberto Anything expert. Anyway, Lee Grant says Crockett has got to stop her veiled call for political violence. Wow. You guys are concerned about Crockett talking about political violence, which she never has. Of course, Trump has. And when Trump does it, you guys are crickets. Crickets. Come on, Lee Grant. Let's have some intellectual honesty here now. Come on. Be intellectually honest. All right. Lead Bearcat from Austin says people have anything why getting Greenland or Panama is to get the left riled up. Oh no, let me tell you. If he were to get the right back in from his military, he'll do it. But I think that there's still enough sensible people in the military to just avoid it. This is not some kind of a thing to get on the left's minds, Paul Fleming says we lost 4 Americans in Benghazi and MAGA still won't shut up about it. We lost 4 American soldiers today in Lithuania and Donald Trump didn't know anything about it. Think about that, right? Thank you for bringing that up. All right, Michael Ryan says an invasion of Panama means the canal will quickly become inoperable for all. Exactly. I grew up on the canal, right? It's funny because the 2 different houses we had in the canal zone. We first were on the Pacific side, and on the Pacific side, all I had to do is climb up a hill, and I could see the ships going through the canal. It was like going through a big river. Ray Bracken is in the house. How are you doing, my brother Ray? Talk to me.
I'm good, brother. Just actually wrapped up a meeting down at Commissioner's Court.
Did you go? Did they issue the raise?
So I didn't get to see. I didn't get to stay for the vote, but some people from my group are were speaking, and I mean I know Rodney Ellis pretty well. I always get that look from him, like I'm glad to see you, son.
Right.
But he's already got Leslie Briones in lockstep with him, and
right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident about
Lina Hidalgo. If Lina Hidalgo does it, it's over, right? Because she will be the swing vote.
I actually am kind of optimistic, and I want to say this because I often give a lot of crap to Republicans, but that guy that they had actually elected in the other district, the Republican right. Tom Ramsey. I will have to say he actually impressed me with how reasonable he is as a Republican.
Right.
And he sounds like somebody that you can actually sit at the table with and talk about real issues, like when they voted on. Now they did vote on maintaining, and this might be good for our Houston listeners. They did vote on maintaining countywide voting, which is actually a bipartisan issue.
Excellent. Right.
So I mean, and Tom, he had no debate about that. He was right on board with it with the Democratic commissioners. So that is very encouraging to know we have a commissioner's court that's functional. Yeah. And I just wish we had more of that throughout the state of Texas, and even in the city. The city is another government body that really needs some work, if you ask me. But we've really done a lot, and if anybody has any doubts about what voting and progressive power and organizing can do for you, look at the Harris County Commissioner's Court. And
I
that's
am
an
so
example of what good
I
government should look like.
Let me tell you one other thing, because we are what's called a bellwether county. Harris County is. So what happens in Harris County has a way of spreading throughout the country. So the fact that we are going to a minimum of $20 an hour for the county and 21.16 for for the private companies that hire people in, I think it's a marvelous thing. And I thank you for being there. I was supposed to go out to the press conference today with Briannis and Rodney Ellis. I just couldn't get away because there was just too much that I had to get done. So what I
Yeah.
want to do is later on get some clips from the vote. So if you hear about the vote before I do, just drop me a line, drop me a text, drop me a call or something. Okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna get back into it and see, because like you said, I mean, it looks like they pretty much have the votes, but Rodney Ellis was being very conservative about his optimism. But I can kind of see, he's doing the politician thing. He say, well, we
Right.
just got to make sure we
But
got the other votes. But
remember, if Brianna says yes, because she would be the swing vote, it doesn't matter what Garcia does. If Brianna says yes, we know that Lena is a progressive, so she has to vote for it. So that would be it. That would be calling in the vote.
pretty much, so
Yeah.
we got the
But anyway,
majority we need there. It's
there you.
just procedural. But yeah,
But anyway, thank you, my brother. Anything else you want to say real quick before I go to the video?
no, I just wanted to drop that update to you, and not gonna take too much time here. I'm gonna just let you go on with the program, but I appreciate the space, brother.
Thank you so kindly for calling that in. Hey, folks, what he just spoke about is so important. We are not only talking about a living wage, but this bill that under the tutelage of look how fast I forgot his name, Rodney Ellis, under the tutelage of Rodney Ellis, and now I think he has on board Leslie Brianis. It's going to bring Harris County into what we said progressivity is about, and that is we are going to have progressive payments in this city, a minimum of $20 an hour for county workers, a minimum of $21 an hour for contractors. I think that is marvelous. Anyway, and again, Harris County is a second or third largest county in the country. And I believe, not I believe, and it is what's called a bellwether county. They generally see how it goes. If you notice, we had a drop off in Democratic votes, and that's exactly what happened in the national election as well. We have, because of the mix of people we have, we tend to reflect fairly well the United States of America. All right, let's see what else we got here. Michael Rudnin says, well, let me see. I think before that, I have one from Michael. Paul Fleming says, a sheriff in Mississippi, the highest paid and most powerful public figure in his county, staffed his mother's commercial chicken farm with inmates from the local jail and used taxpayer purchased equipment to improve it. An investigation by New York Times and Mississippi Today found. Oh boy, he should be in trouble. And Michael says an invasion of the Panama Canal will quickly make it inoperable. Like I was telling you guys, I know exactly all the points in that area to ensure that anytime anybody were to try to hostilely take that what Panama owns away, it'll as it they likely make it unusable, and it's very easy to do because of the two dams that are, well, actually it's really, technically speaking, it's four dams that are holding up the canal, but these are not. Anyway, we'll move on from there. Let's see what else we got here. Michael Rudden says Republicans are scared of violence from red hats. Democrats can't say the same from the left. Vanity Fair, they're scared S-less. The threat of political violence informing Trump's grip on Congress, with the president smashing norm after norm, even lawmakers within his party have feared for their personal safety. You know what? I want to take the time here. I'm going to get out of order. I had a video that I want to show, but what I want to do is, I tell you what, I'll show the video, then I'll go to that TikTok that I want you guys to see because it is stunning. It's an old TikTok, but I want you guys to see what fear of Donald Trump actually looks like. But let's go ahead and talk about a guy that called in, a MAGA guy that called in today. I want you to listen to this. This morning, I got a very disturbing call from a MAGA person, which illustrates that these guys live in a complete different world, which we all know. Sometimes these worlds are manufactured and sometimes they are just willfully ignorant. And I think this guy that called in is a combination of both. Some things he really doesn't know, and some things he decides to be willfully ignorant about it. He called in to complain about us not calling the burning of the Tesla cars, etc., domestic terrorism. We call it vandalism, which is what it is, but they want it to be called domestic terrorism. Okay, fine. I then went and asked if he thought what January 6th, what happened on January 6th, whether that was domestic terror. And we know it is, because by full definition, what occurred was domestic terrorism. I mean, Obama spoke about it, that this is where the violence in this country was emanating from. And Obama was forced to pull that FBI document. But we know that we have right-wing domestic terrorists in our midst. And we know they came into fruition on January 6th. And we have the video evidence on January 6th. I want you to listen to what this guy had to say, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's go to Jim. Come on in, Jim.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
I was listening to you yesterday, and you were talking to Brian about the Tesla, attacks. He asked you if your opinion was it vandalism or terrorism, and you said it was vandalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit confused about that. I don't really understand how you can confuse that with think it's vandalism and not terrorism. I mean, but it's one thing to break a car window or slash their tires or spray paint on it. It's another thing to throw a firebomb at it and blowing it up and doing the same to a Tesla dealership. Okay,
let's stop you a second there, Jim. I live in Kingwood, and I have cameras around my home. And there was a guy who put Roman candles and firebombed my home. They put it into the meals, firebombed my house. They made it. The news made every single channel: ABC, CBS, NBC. It also made it in every newspaper. My question to you is: every one of those reporters called it vandalism. Not only that, guess who else called what's happening to Tesla vandalism right now? Elon Musk. Even Elon Musk hasn't called it domestic terrorism.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm sure about that. Neil, go ahead.
Neil, okay, let me. I got confused. Sorry. Let me just push back on this whole narrative. What's going on at Tesla are peaceful protests 99% of the time. I don't want people to feel the Tesla dealership. I have 200 feet between the sidewalk and the door. Tests have been extremely peaceful and getting people afraid. They're getting people to be afraid to go.
Okay, and that is true. So what Neil just said is important. Neil pointed out that even though everybody is concentrating on the fire bombs that is occurring on the Tesla cars, that is a sensationalism part of it. It's terrible. It's horrendous. But compared to all the other protests going on around the country against Tesla, that is not what you see. A lot of people are protesting Tesla without burning up cars, but all you see is a part where cars are burnt up. Anything else, Jim? But yes, I'm sure that he called it vandalism, Jim. Anything else, Jim?
I still don't understand how you not consider that terrorism, because if you think about it, Elon Musk works for Trump in the government, and terrorism is fighting against terror against the current government. If Elon wasn't working for the government, none of these firebombs would be happening. None of the Tesla protests would be happening.
Exactly. But again, it's
all that other stuff.
Jim, let me ask you a question. Jim, I think it is clear that it is vandalism. I think it is absolutely clear that it's vandalism. Now, when it comes to calling it domestic, Jim, one at a time, Jim, please, one at a time. All right. Jim, it's absolutely clear it's vandalism. Now, let's see, does that vandalism take the other step to domestic terrorism? You believe it is. I believe it is not. Elon Musk believe it is not. Okay? So what I'm saying is, When you saw January 6th, did you feel immediately that was domestic terrorism?
Not really, no.
There you go. So that is, I mean, that was a group that actively went to Capitol Hill, the center of our government, broke into it to try to get sir, you can go on any television network and watch them take different tools to break into the Capitol. You saw that with your own eyes, right? Yes or no? Did you see these guys breaking into the Capitol? Did you see them breaking doors? Did you see them fighting police officers as they try to keep them out? Did you see that?
I saw people being let into the Capitol.
Okay, let me ask you. Okay, Jim, America is listening to you right now. All over the country right now is listening to you. Guys, I'm coming to all the callers. It's completely filled up. But this is a point that I need to get to with Jim. All right, I want to start with you, Jim, because your way of thinking is very important right now for America to see. Number one, you believe that those people who are vandalizing Tesla cars are domestic terrorists, correct?
Well, they're using violent means to
all I'm asking you, sir, Jim, I'm asking you for I want, Jim, I'm trying to get clarity for our listeners here. This is important. So I ask you to do me the favor and answer as I'm asking. You believe it's domestic terrorism, what they're doing?
Yes, and also
now you also believe that it's domestic terrorism because Elon Musk works for Trump, who is our head of state, correct? And terrorism is when you're trying to change laws by violent force, correct?
It sums it up, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, no, that's fine. We accept that. So that's where you are. Now, on January 6th, we had many what we proved to be domestic terrorists, and way over 500 of them were convicted for what they did. You are not calling that domestic terrorism, and you claim that you did not see anybody break any windows to get into the Capitol. Is that correct? Yes or no?
I did not see that, sir. I saw.
Okay, that's fine. You didn't see anybody break windows to get into the Capitol. You didn't see any spray painting of anything to get in on the Capitol floors, right? Correct?
I did not see that.
And you didn't see them beating police officers. You didn't see those guys in Washington beating police officers, correct?
I don't believe any police officers were beaten at that time.
Okay, and hold on a second. And you also did see the scene where police officers' necks were almost ripped off as they were trying to keep people out, and they closed the door on a police officer's neck. You didn't see that either, right?
Is there a point to this? Because this all happened.
I'm making a point here. Did you see that, or didn't you see that?
Can you repeat that?
Did you see when a police officer his neck was jammed in a door in Washington, D.C. by the protesters or I call them insurrectionists? You didn't see when they did that?
I didn't see much of it, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. So folks, to the listener, Jim, okay, hold on, Jim. Jim, hold on. America, this is what I'm talking about. If you listen to Jim, most people that watch standard TV, most people that watch their media feed, etc., they were able to see these actions. I mean, it doesn't matter how you interpret these actions. They were able to see these actions. But we have a sect, a group of people out there that are so insulated from reality, from the news that actually occurred, that Jim, who is calling in now, Jim may be an honest guy. I don't know if Jim is fooling me with saying he never saw these things, but these things occurred. There are near 1,000 people that were convicted for beating on police officers because they have the evidence for all of this. And here we have Jim that says he didn't see any of that. He's willing to call the attacks, the few attacks on Tesla cars, domestic terrorism. But what occurred in Washington, D.C. with thousands of people doing these things, he knows nothing about. That's a danger for this country. That is something that needs mitigating. It is a severe danger. I don't know if Jim is, I have a tendency to believe Jim may be living what he sees in his world. And that's the problem. Jim, I got a lot of calls. I think I spent a lot of time with you, sir. And I think I gave you a lot of time to talk. Thank you so kindly, my brother. Now, interestingly, after listening to him, to some extent, I gave this guy, just to some extent, the benefit of the doubt. In other words, I gave him the manufactured reality. In other words, Fox News and OAN and their Reddits and all of that they cater to have them in a bubble. So partially that, but he's also, in my opinion, willfully ignorant, trying to not see what doesn't fit what he wants to see. But one of my listeners this morning just said, like, Berto, there is no way Jim don't know all the things you listed to him. He agreed with it and won't accept the double standard, GOP standard practice. And Glenn Ryan is correct. We get a double standard when it comes to good and bad. If we take a look at what's happening with Hegseth, this guy completely released information, secret information on a channel, and he refuses to accept it. But at the same time, we have the director of Gabbard coming out and say, anybody found leaking, they will be face the law immediately. Well, it seems to me that this applies to Hegseth. This is, as Glenn Ryan says, GOP standard practice. And until we can get around that with a lot of MAGA folks, etc., it's going to be a hard struggling in America. But you know what? That's why we do what we do. We intend to change that. And I mean that. That's why we do what we do. I mean, it's a slow slog. And I know to a lot of progressives, why bother? This is why. Because you have the people willfully ignorant like this guy, but there are those that are just ignorant. And if we can get to those that are just ignorant, that would be okay. I want to give Lynette BB. She says, "Hi, Egberto from Seattle on Substack." I also want to salute Marichke from the Netherlands in Europe on Substack as well. Maria Carney, she says, as a naturalized citizen, this is what my greatest nightmare. You can be walking along the street and some random officer pick you up. I'm a naturalized citizen as well, Maria Carney. I know what you mean. Maria Carney also says, as a child from Cuba, I never thought I'd be living the stories my family would recount about Batista and Castro. Well, you are living it now, sis. You're living it now. Marish says, you act interested, not natural at all. I don't know what Marichke, isn't that the person who told me earlier that that she's from the Netherlands? Yeah. Okay, so you're English. Okay, got it. Let's see what else I've got to read here. If I got anybody else. Anyway, thank you, Substack watchers. Let me see what I got here before I get to the next one here. Para ver, bear with me, guys. Bear with me, guys. Paul Fleming says, no, I read that one already. Lee, the Bearcat says, why does the Crockett lady talk different from 2022 when coming into office? I don't know that she's talking different. I've been interviewing her for over 5 years now, and she's always been the same. Take a look at all the interviews that she's ever given. Michael, Bree says, Michael Rodden, there are spineless, they fear their jobs. And you know what? I want to bring that up. There is I hope I queued it correctly on TikTok. I'm going to try to find it because when you guys talk about Republicans being spineless, it is very important for you to see how spineless they really, really are. I want to show you guys something if I can get to it in time, which I think I can. I think I will be able to do just that. Yeah, I got it. All right, folks, I'm going to bring this up. And this is just because of that spineless argument. This is not too long, but I want you to see this. And I want you to see what Al Green did in Congress. Oops, I got to start it over. Let's go ahead and bring that onto the screen real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the ranking member, and I thank the witnesses for appearing. Dear friends, as witnesses, if you are familiar with, and I believe you are, I just want to build the record. If you're familiar with the KKK, will you kindly extend a hand into the air? I believe you are. Let the record reflect that all are. And are you familiar with their cross burning? They call it cross lighting. If you're familiar with them, I'm sure that you know that they do. Would you kindly raise a hand? All hands are in the air for the record. And is it true that, they use this as a means of symbolizing their faith? They claim to be Christians, the members of the Klan. And in burning or lighting the cross, they are exemplifying their faith. I believe as persons familiar with the Klan, doing the kind of work that you do, you probably know this too, but let me just ask you to raise your hands if you know this. Raise your hands, please. Okay, all hands. Now, have we ever have you any information wherein it has been widely said that when a Klansman commits an act of terrorism, that this was Christian terrorism? Has that ever been widely used, Christian terrorism? If the answer is no, do not raise a hand. No hands are up. So it has not been widely used. We do know that if persons of the Islamic faith commit an act of terrorism, there's a commonly used term, Islamic terrorism. Have you heard this term, Islamic terrorism? If so, would you raise your hand, please? All have raised their hands. I'm putting you through this exercise because it seems to me that there's a mindset that has to be dealt with. When white men calling themselves Christians commit acts of terrorism, we don't define it as such. We don't say Christian terrorism. But if a person who is of the Islamic faith does it, we connect the faith to the violence. I don't think that the Klan is a Christian organization. I'm the grandson of a preacher. I know that they don't live up to the tenets of Christianity. Then I don't think that those persons who are of the Islamic faith, who may commit some violent act or who claim they are, I don't really think that that's Islam. So I'm mentioning this to let you know that we have a problem in terms of our mindset that we have to deal with. Next point quickly, and I'll tie it all together. If I said there were some very fine people among the bigots, the racists, the Klansmen in Charlottesville, that there were some very fine people among them, would that be an appropriate thing for a member of Congress to say? If you think so, raise your hand. Let the record reflect that no one has raised a hand. So if the president says it, some very fine people among those who were preaching, Jews will not replace us, blood and soil. The president says it. Is it appropriate for the president to say such a thing? If you think that it is not appropriate, raise your hand. If you think it's not appropriate for the president to say what you just said would be inappropriate for a member of Congress to say. If you think it's not appropriate for the president to say there were some fine people among those folk in Charlottesville where a person lost her life, raise your hand. You think it's inappropriate for the president to say it? Raise your hand.
Sir, if I may, at least from the DHS perspective, I think the way we look at it and the way we go after these...
excuse me, please. I greatly appreciate your perspective, but I'm limited on time. So you were quick. You had no problem saying that members of Congress should not use such language. But you refuse to acknowledge that the president should not use such language?
If I could just jump in.
Yes, quickly, please.
I would say for me personally, it's just not of my place as a career government official to comment on what either members of Congress or the president
Well, you already did.
to say.
But too late now, see.
Okay, well.
You already did. You already said that it's inappropriate for members of Congress. But when it gets to the president...
I don't think I commented one way or the other. But
No, you did. You're on the record. Okay. You raised your hand. You're on the record. Here's the point. We who hold public trust have to have the same standard for everyone. Same standard for the KKK that we have for persons who claim to be of the Islamic faith. Same standard for, and they are not, same standard for the president that we have for members of Congress. If you can't uphold the same standard, you're doing your country a disservice, my friends. I yield back the balance of my time.
Hey, Chair now.
Now, that was completely sad. And it just made those men look small. So small. Punks. Just think about it. I like the way the congressman brought them along, just to show, but by bringing them along, it just showed how weak and gutless these people are. Weak and gutless for not being able to be truthful about what they said there. I think that was beautiful. All right, before I go to the last video, let me see if there's anybody else I need to comment on here in Substack. All right, let's see. I'm curious from Michael. What violence does the right-wing bubble say is coming from the left? A few swastikas set on fire. That's never been proved to be a mass effort from the left. There was only one arrested, proven to be responsible for one incident. The rest, again, look. Don't, Michael, we don't even have to fall for the false equivalence. The right is violent, the left isn't. That's just a statement of fact. All right, Bridge MCP says, Egberto, why is Tesla a terrorist crime? It's just a bunch of tourists. P.S. Trump wants us, the citizens, to give reparations to J6 people. I think the J6 people need to get in line with black folk, right? Well, to put it bluntly, with African Americans. All right, J. Ray says Harris County is also one of the largest employers of black and brown communities in the country. True. Lee the Bearcat says that Tesla Austin finds explosives. Well, who cares? And let me tell you what I mean by who cares. Do you think I care that bad things are happening to a bad company? No. Will I do it? No, not at all. All right, let's see. J. Ray said, it's funny how you explain the facts and yet he still refuses to see how what happened on January 6th. Again, willful ignorance, right? Willful ignorance. You need to put your blinders on, because if you don't, you figure out that you have lived an entire lie. Let's see. Lee Grant says, perhaps the people who need to firebomb Teslas should be given that space. I don't know. Lee Grant says it's mostly peaceful protest time. Yeah, I believe that. And I don't know if you're on Social Security or do you need Social Security, Lee Grant, but I'm pretty sure you're going to become a progressive pretty quickly when you find out what Donald Trump is really planning to do on Social Security, including for elderly people. Lee Grant says, why do people destroy Tesla when it's a symbol of environmental protection? Nope, it's not. Tesla is not a symbol of environmental protection. Tesla is a welfare company that depends on the government for survival. If you want to see what good environmental technology in progressive environmental technologies, we have to look at the Chinese companies making electric cars now, not Tesla. Tesla, look at what, not only Tesla, but all of Elon Musk companies are just destroying the environment. Look at what they're doing to Texas. I had a woman who moved out of Brownsville, or that area of South Texas, because of all the debris and the pollution created by launching those rockets without following the proper disposal of water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's see what else we got here before I get to the last video. Bridge MCP says it's sick how they feel about J6. Yeah, it's a disease. It's a mental illness. Let's see. Bridge MCP says, is there a point to this? Come on, Bridge. You know what I'm going to say, Bridge. Oh, luckily, Michael answered. Bridge, the point is to show the cognitive dissonance. When you are in the bubble, inside the bubble, many times you can't see it. But even if you are a MAGA person seeing it from the outside, sometimes when it shows how stupid one looks, you internalize it and say, well, I don't want to be like that person. I don't want to be like that person. Uh, okay, I need to play another video. So I think this is Harry. So Harry, you got about
That's
a
right.
minute. About a minute, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, well, I was
And
going
also, hold on. We also have Bridge MCP. Uh, Bridge, give Harry about a minute,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you come on. Okay,
I was going
Harry,
to
go.
comment on what you about Jim. He's wrong about that with Jay.
You're breaking up, Harry.
He's wrong about he's wrong about January 6th. There were police officers that were assaulted. You asked them questions. I don't know what planet he's living on. The other thing I wanted to comment on real quickly was I'm trying to get my thoughts together. What you talked about with Brian this morning. I'm glad you broke him off. You know, he needs to be more respectful to you. You know, he just does that, and he he shouldn't do that. Oh, and then the thing with that woman, that student, that grad student,
Yes,
they're
ma'am.
breaking the law, and there's supposed to be a hearing, and that woman's supposed to come back from Louisiana and go back to Tufts, Somerville, so she can have a hearing. And, I was listening to that on Democracy Now! There's just a
Thank you,
lot of
bro.
craziness with Elon Musk and all that.
You're absolutely
I'll
right,
let you
my
play the
brother.
video. Right.
All right, let's go to
Yep.
Bridge
Yep.
MCP. Thank you, brother. Bridge, come on
I'll
in.
call you. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow in the morning. All right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Peace.
Bridge, you're on.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. What I said there with I was quoting what the caller said. I was not saying that. What is the point? I was saying he said that.
Oh.
And even Michael got on me for that. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I was quoting him.
Oh, okay.
I knew what the point was.
I missed it. Sorry, my apologies,
I know,
Bridge.
and Michael did the same thing, explaining what it was. I was like, I know. All right, go play the video.
But wait, just before the video, you got about 30 seconds here because I'm trying to keep within time. But here's the thing, Bridge. The thing about it is I love what that guy gave a good opportunity for us to point out how silly it looks on the outside. And those who don't see it, we know that their minds are now their minds are fried. And look at what Patrick did to me. Patrick is saying, "You guys are not going to talk without me." So here is Patrick. Patrick, what's up?
Okay, I'll see
everybody
you.
got it started. I wanted to tell Breach thank you, and I wanted to tell Ray thank you for taking his time out for all of us today. In addition to that, we've been talking about terrorism. I think it's important to remind people that oftentimes when the left is accused of terrorism, it's insurgents, whether it's CIA or somebody from the right that is trying to stoke this, and that happened during the I forgot the last few uprisings, but
BLM.
This country, what's that?
BLM. It happened through BLM where they tried to do some tricks.
Yeah.
And many other movements. Yes.
And so we don't even know that that's not happening with these Teslas. And then when we're talking about terrorism, I made the point this morning that it's more like a counterstrike if it's actually happening from people from the left. We didn't shoot first. When they started taking more and more from the middle class and they started stripping away what the middle class had built, that was when it started. I also want to point out that every single time I see a black flag or a flag with a blue stripe through it or something like that, that's creating terror. That's to intimidate and scare people. That is terrorism.
Right. All right. Well, look, thank you for that. Thank you, Breach. Thank you. Thank you, Breach. Were you done, Breach? Did we lose Breach? Okay. I think we lost Breach. So anyway, let's go ahead and get the video done, and then if there's any time left, we can come back. All right, Patrick?
Perfect. Thank you.
And thank you for the call, guys. Harry, everybody. All right, let's go ahead and play that video. This one is an important video, guys. Check it out. Something big happened today, and a lot of people are not going to talk about it as they should. Stefanik from New York, who is supposed to be the UN ambassador, Donald Trump called her in. In other words, we need you to stay in Congress. That's one vote. And you have to ask yourself why. And the reason why is likely what we see, the tea leaves, in a plus 35 and a plus 15 Trump district. 2 Democrats won one-handedly, the other one that by 1 point. But it's still an important win because these are people that wouldn't blindly vote for a Democrat. And that's what happened in Pennsylvania on Tuesday. And we'll see what happens in the Supreme Court, in the Wisconsin Supreme Court on Tuesday, and the 2 seats in Florida on Tuesday as well next week, to see if the pattern continues or not. And remember, even in those Florida districts, the Democrats it would be nice if they won, but it's not about them winning. It's about seeing by how much a Republican wins if they win, and see how that performs relative to the county. So again, the reality is the fact that Donald Trump pulled Stefanik points out that in their internal numbers, they are running scared for those 2 Florida seats. And then don't forget that seat in New York if Stefanik were to leave. So again, we'll see what happens. But I want you to listen to this analysis by Jonathan Martin after the Wall Street Journal article and Brzezinski talks about the issue, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Democrats are celebrating a pair of victories this week in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, a state that President Trump won last November. Democrat James Malone narrowly won a special election for a state Senate seat in an East Pennsylvania district that has been represented by a Republican for the last 136 years.
Honestly, we went down to knocking on doors and talking to every single person. I have support from a good chunk of Republicans who do not have a problem with the things that are being cut. They have a problem with how it's being done.
Out of more than 180,000 registered voters in the district, 53% are Republicans and about 30% are Democrats. Trump won the county last year by 15 points. The win comes after another Democrat in a Pennsylvania House race won a special election on Tuesday.
Okay, I think he won. I think we can safely say
majority control of the state house in the Democratic Party's hands by a single seat. That win by Democrats in Pennsylvania caught the attention of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. In its latest editorial entitled "A Shock to the GOP from MAGA Country," it writes in part, Democrats have been lost in the wilderness since Donald Trump's victory, but if Tuesday's special election shocker in Pennsylvania is any harbinger, the MAGA Republican ascendancy is perishable. Republicans might want to take this surprise loss in MAGA country as a warning. Mr. Trump's tariff threats are whipsawing financial markets and their broader economy. The conference board said Tuesday that its survey of consumer confidence showed a drop in March for the 4th consecutive month. Even voters who like the GOP's policy agenda could be jolted by the impression of chaos in Washington, plus Mr. Trump's recent focus on retribution. Democrats got pummeled last year because they followed out-of-touch leaders down ideological rabbit holes. Republicans will suffer if they do the same thing in reverse.
Okay, and again, that's the Wall Street Journal editorial page. It's interesting, Jonathan Martin. I always remember back to 2017. And you saw elections, and one of the first warning signs, and again, this could all change next week. Maybe Republicans win in Wisconsin and that massive race there. This could all change. But I do remember back in 2017 reading something about Delaware County, which is in the Philly suburbs. They elected county commissioners for the first time in 100 years. If it happens one time, it's a blip. If you start seeing things like this one after another, like that Florida special election that right now Steve Bannon and others are concerned about, if the Republican wins by a couple of points, even that's a warning sign. It's like, but this happens in off years. You can really start to see how things are going. Too early to say yet, but this certainly is scaring a lot of Republicans.
Yeah, look, we ought to stipulate that
the tables have turned in modern American politics. It used to be that the Republicans benefited, Joe, when there was less turnout. That's changed now. Democrats now have an advantage in off years and special elections when turnout is typically high information, highly engaged voters who follow the news really closely. So Democrats do better in these kind of circumstances. But that's precisely what we're going to be having here in 2025 and 2026. And this is why the GOP should be alarmed, because Democrats are energized. Why are they energized? For the same reasons they were in 2017. As you mentioned, there's a backlash against Trump and his policies, exacerbated by Elon Musk this time, by the way, which wasn't there in 17. And that is going to give Democrats a turnout edge in the special elections this year and in the gov races in Jersey and Virginia. And that leads to the midterms next year, where you'll probably see the same energy that you saw in 2018. And the great question going forward is, for Democrats, is what happens when you have a bigger turnout election, like in a presidential cycle, when folks show up who are infrequent voters who don't pay that close attention? Can Democrats finally win those people over? The most ominous crosstab, I thought, from last year's election, Joe, was the split between people who follow the news, who follow politics, and those who really don't, and those who don't. And the people who are highly engaged, who show up in March in a special election in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, they're watching Morning Joe. They're reading the Journal and the Times. What I'm just uncertain about is, can Dems get folks back in presidential cycles who don't follow the news? Because if they can't, it's going to be damn hard.
First of all, I want to let you absorb something important that Jonathan Martin said, because it is also something that we noticed in the last election. People who watch the news in general, Kamala Harris won those votes handedly. In other words, people who are informed won Kamala Harris's vote handedly. The people who did not follow the news, did not follow politics, or were tethered to right-wing news, they voted a little bit more so for Donald Trump. Not by a lot, but a little. You got to remember, this was a very close election. And what Jonathan Martin points out is that the people that are likely to be voting in this year's election and next year elections are likely to be a bit more informed. Well, at least for this year's election. For next year's election, what he's calling out is like, will the American people be an informed part of the base coming out to vote or not? That is not the question that I'm dealing with. First of all, I want to ensure that the people that are voting in these special elections, they're running scared. No bills have been passed yet, so their vote has an immediate impact on what Congress is doing right now. If the Republicans lose in a landslide in Florida, you know what's going to happen. All the Republicans in the House are going to panic, and Donald Trump's idea of a tax cut, Donald Trump's idea of all these other issues is moot, because there are more of them that want to win than simply sacrifice themselves for Donald Trump and then go off into oblivion. Because, Donald Trump can promise you, well, even if you lose, I'll take care of you after you lose. They know that means absolutely nothing. So if there is a bad night on Tuesday for Republicans, let's say they lose one seat in Florida, and let's say they lose the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin, I think Donald Trump's policies they're over, especially now that he's doing the tariff that's going to increase the cost of cars anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000. Yeah, I think that would be over. But again, notice what he says. The voters who are informed vote Democratic, vote progressives. And I want to talk to my MAGA brothers and sisters. If you want to ensure that you get the things that you claim you want, that is how you have to vote. You've got to stop buying into the lies. You have to stop being fooled. You have to stop being gullible. You have to stop your prejudice. You have to stop all these things and vote your pocketbook. Nobody asks you to like anybody. but just vote your pocketbook. Just vote your pocketbook. That's what it's all about. Anyway, Egberto, no, I read that one already. Scrolling down. By the way, I saw a message in the other chat from Paul Fleming, who talks about today is a day that Evan Griffin leads death in Harris County Jail. I serve with his mother in the Houston Peace and Justice Center. I'm on the board of the Houston Peace and Justice Center, and she is a part of our team that does a whole lot of work. Jaslet Griffin, very good woman. Reverend Jaslet Griffin is Evan Griffin's mother, and we work together on several issues. In fact, I tabled with her Juneteenth in Acres Home. Anyway, let's continue this with what you guys have to say here. Let's see. Michael Rudney says Pennsylvania Congressman Madeline Dean calls for the resignation of DOD Secretary Hegseth. Absolutely, and he needs to go. I'm not going to read the whole thing because of time. Let's see if what am I missing? New York Times breaking. Welcome back to paying $35 on a $5 overdraft. Yep, that's what they're doing by closing down the CFPB. That's what they believe in. Congressman Green, rock on from Joe. Let's see what else we got here. Scrolling down. If I miss you, I'll read it later on, guys. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. All right, I'm not going to get to all of these, and we're at the end of the program. It's 4 o'clock. But you guys always come first. That's why I take those phone calls first. All right, folks, please support the program however you can. I got about a minute to tell you that. Please support the program however you can. What's the best way to support the program? The best way to support our program is simply to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter. And you can become a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. If you want to serve us in some other way, if you go to politicsandright.com/support, politicsandright.com/support. That's an alternative way that gives you all the different ways in which you can support us. We cannot continue this without you. It is you who sustain this work. And this is a 16-hour a day work, 7 days a week. I got a call from Detroit, IPTV in Detroit. They're carrying my program. Again, I just give it to them to carry the program. I don't make anything off of it or anything because, again, the idea is to get the message out. And the chairman of IPTV called me up and he said, how the hell do you produce so much material? I'm like, that's all that I do. That is what we have to do. We have to flood the zone. And what I'm asking you is to help us flood the zone. Support the program however best you can. The best way is, again, subscribing, becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. Paid subscribers of our newsletter get to read all those books that you see scrolling that I wrote. You get to read them right there in the Substack app or on the Substack platform. So please, again, support us however you can. I got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.